Hello. I have a question for you. What is information? Show me information. Show me data. It's pretty hard. We can demonstrate it with our mouth because we think it in our head. And something happens in here and we move these things like our tongue and our lips in certain ways, and we make sounds that somebody else receives in their ears. Literally sound waves that hit our eardrums that vibrate. And they vibrate the cells in the little hair, not the actual hair, but something we call ciliary hair. And that sends a message to the centers of our brain, namely right here. Those sounds mean something. And it's interpreted. And when we respond to those with this side of our brain, what is information? Well, there's a lot of things to do with the brain here in the nervous system. We're just going to hit some of the particulars. This is not designed to be an anatomy and physiology course, but this is designed to at least give you enough knowledge to know and to make more educated decisions, to make more educated advice to those around you regarding health, nutrition, and it helps to know how nutrition helps the body if you know how the body works. We've looked at the immune system, the cardiovascular or cardiorespiratory system. So let's get started with this one. Slide me over here. Come down. So what is the function of the nervous system? It doesn't escape too many of us. It controls and coordinates functions throughout the body and responds to external and internal stimuli. Truly, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. That is, the world as you know it is all inside your head. And so those are your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, what you see outside your head and what happens outside your body. You hear, you smell. Even the temperature outside and relative ambience, you only know because the receptors in your skin sense it and send that information back to your head. So it's a really big question. How is information processed? How do we distinguish the emotion of a, lost pet with the emotion of riding a wave? All kinds of things life brings us, and these are encoded almost in an instant. We can have these feelings. So we are going to be looking at mostly the neuroanatomy. So a neuron are the cells that transmit impulses. So when we say information, what we mean is a message carried by the nervous system in an electrical fashion. And it's not that a message is being carried by electricity. The electricity is the message. No other way to say it. The electrical signals, very much like Morse code. So Morse code is a series of beeps, long beeps, and short beeps. Beep, 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 beep. Right? Well, the frequency, that is the number of impulses that land in any one spot within a second, determines how the next cell, neuron, interprets and what that information is. Crazy. So, sorry, these slides are not clicking as fast as I want them to. A typical neuron looks something like this. When we say a typical neuron, these are the ones of utmost interest. There are all kinds of nerve cells. Glial cells, support cells, multipolar, bipolar, and unipolar neurons, all right, for your eyes, ears, and different ones. But by and large, most of the processing neurons in your body that go from your system up to your head and communicate with each other look like this one right here. So let's go through these. All signals are received by a nervous cell through something called the dendrites. Dendrites. Dendra, you think of trees or dendrology. It's the study of the rings in the trees. There's one way to look at it. Dendros actually looks like fingers. That's the Latin base of it. So dendrites, a bunch of fingers stretching, feeling out, trying to receive information. You might think of it that way. So there's dendrites, and this is where information is received from the environment. But all that information comes right here into the cell body. Inside the cell body, there's some things called nasal bodies that will interpret these messages. There's a very important component right here where I'm highlighting near the axon called the axon hillock. And this is where it's decided, is the information coming in something that needs to be relayed to the rest of the body or to the mother center, the motherboard, the brain. Not all signals that go on in your body ever get to your brain or even your consciousness. Your brain even has to decide for you what to let you know is happening, right? And then you'll get a reflex or a pain or a need to do something. That's the body or the brain allowing you to feel discomfort or displeasure so that you behave and act. It cannot do it on its own, therefore you must do something to help. So it sucks up all the water from your mouth to retain it in the body, making you thirsty. That causes you to get up and go get a drink of water. And so now you take some water, your body says thank you. And your brain shuts off that need and allows water to be secreted once again through your saliva. So thirst is a physiological behavior. Now, as humans, we're different than the animal and wild kingdom. They only drink when they need to, and they get a lot of their water even from their food. We do a lot of drinking for pleasure, whether it be Kool-Aid, milk, juice, soda, energy drink, alcoholic beverages, these things. Because they give us alertness, energy, or whatnot. So we drink for more reasons than just hydration, but you get the point. The brain is regulating what you feel. And we'll talk about the brain here in a few moments. These are the ones who sense it. The dendrites, they send a message to the cell body, which interprets that message and decides whether the message needs to go on. Let's think about a message that doesn't need to go on. You might be wearing eyeglasses right now, a ring on your finger, or earrings, and you don't feel them. You don't even notice they're there because you've had them for so long on there. Well, your brain and your neurons don't want to continually send a message. There's a ring on your finger, there's a ring on your finger, there's a watch on your wrist, there's a watch on your wrist, there's a watch on your wrist. You know, when you first put a watch on, or a necklace, or a ring, or glasses, it feels funny, right? It feels like something, it weighs heavy. And that message is sent. But eventually it finds out that nothing's going to happen, and maybe that ring's supposed to be there, and so it stops sending the message. This is where that was decided. And you no longer feel the sensation of the clothes on your body. Your body has adapted to it. Can you imagine if every sensation was interpreted all at the same time, continuously? That would not be. Have you seen Superman? Have you seen Superman? You saw what happened to him and Superman. He had to go hide in the janitor's closet because, like, it's all coming in. Ah! Yeah, it's a lot of control. But your brain does that for you. It filters out a lot of message from the inside of your body, your core. It filters it. You don't need to know when the temperature rises or goes down in your core. If you need to shiver, it'll cause you to shiver, and you'll shiver and warm up. And you didn't have anything to do to decide that. Your brain did it for you. And that's because a message was sent or it wasn't sent. When it is sent, that impulse, that is a wave of electricity, goes down the axon, which is what all this is. Now, not all, but many axons of the peripheral nervous system have a myelin sheath. This myelin sheath helps that impulse to go even faster. I think electricity is just quick and one speed, but there's faster electricity than others, and there's faster ways to let that electricity travel. And the kind of wire and how much copper wire you have has to do with how quickly that impulse can travel as well. Well, the myelin sheath is kind of like that. If you have a myelin sheath, those neurons fire about 150 times faster than an unmyelinated neuron. And then at the axon terminals, this is where the message is delivered. And where are the axon terminals located? Well, they are usually touching another set of dendrites in another neuron. So you just have to picture these end on end, and the message goes in one direction. It does not go back and forth, not at all. It goes from the dendrites to the cell body, down the axon to the axon terminals. And that's the anatomy of a neuron in a nutshell. And the rest of these slides kind of just go through that. All right, sensory neurons, and these are the three kinds. They carry impulses from sense organs to the spinal cord. So these are things that are in your skin and in your muscles. Right now, without even looking at my body, look at me. I'm looking up. I'll even close my eyes and I can tell you my left foot is hanging under the desk and over my right leg. My right leg is bent slightly to the left and my foot is on its side. All right. My hand is by my right ear. It's silly, right? But we're so proud of babies when they can locate their eye and without poking it, or put a fork in their mouth without stabbing themselves, because sensory reception and perception is something that the body has to learn. Obviously, as adults, it's not a big deal, so you don't have to be proud of me. It's okay. I've been doing this for a while. But they carry impulses from sense organs, so your brain is constantly monitoring where your body parts are located. Now, what's interesting is for amputees and those messages they get when a limb is not there. Now, you can look into that as well. Phantom limbs, you might have heard of that. Interesting. So these are sensory neurons only carry information from the body towards the brain. Motor neurons carry impulses from the brain. So once information gets to the brain decides what to do with that. Do I need to move my leg? Do I need to move my hand? Do I need to shiver? Does my stomach need to digest? Whatever the case might be, an impulse will then go from my brain to that part of my body, and a result is carried out as in response. Interneurons are the connection between these two. So they connect sensory and motor neurons and carry impulses between them. So they do a lot of the processing. While sensory and motor neurons might be sending a lot of signals back and forth, it's the interneurons that end up doing a lot of the processing. So many times you have multiple sensory neurons coming into contact with the interneuron. The interneuron takes in all that information. Let's say you're going to go out for a run on a cold day. So you have your spandex shorts, your shoes, you have kind of a sweatshirt top, then you have a beanie and some gloves, and you're all warmed up on the upside and cool on the downside. Well, before you step out, your body has already begun processing. It's getting warm up here, it's kind of cool down there. You step outside, the temperature hits you, and you're cold, you start shivering, but then you start running. So the interneuron has to decide, okay, wait a minute, it's cold, but they're moving, but I'm covered up top and I'm exposed down below, and it's going to send out the message as to whether or not any extra shivering or movement has to occur. And oftentimes the decision is do nothing. Okay, so that's the relay station that makes all the decisions between the sensory and motor neurons. So, yeah, that was backwards. So the cell body, and you can just go through these slides. Actually, I already talked about this. So this has to do with the anatomy of the neuron. The cell body, again, the dendrites, the axon terminal. So I described them to you, and here are some discrete black and white definitions you might find helpful to put in your notes. All right, so what I want to get to now is we're going to get real close right into the synapse, which is between interneuron and sensory, or between motor neuron and interneuron. Okay, this is the location where that impulse is actually transferred. So if we go in, notice where I'm at. This is the axon. This is the dendrite of the receiving cell. And there's a lot of nutrition here. Well, I say nutrition, I mean minerals and vitamins that play a role in the release of these chemicals and in the formation of these chemicals. This is the level at which good nutrition is very important. I'll talk about that in this next lecture. You'll have about 3 short ones for this. So we'll pick up with the synapse and a little bit about how the synapse works to transmit information from one cell to the other, because that's where we're really curious, right? I mean, that's where we want to know, how does it get from my knee to my head? How does it get from anywhere in my body to my head and back? And it's a series of synapses, right? All right, we'll see you in a little.